Over the last 5 years, we've not been strangers to the not so gradual increase in our fast food cost. When I was in college, McDonald's and Taco Bell get me buying a pinch like anywhere from $2 to $5. Uh, when I needed something in between a class or needing something just to get my projects over the finish line. That being said, I do have a little bit of a bias. I only began noticing this change when it came time for me to start paying my own bills. And I feel it's necessary to point out that I'm aware that inflation is a constant issue. It's going to persist for the rest of our lives. It doesn't matter how good things get in the future or how much worse. Inflation's going to be there. But now, it seems more recently we're exiting the frog in a slowly boiling pot phase and just being set on fire. Somebody just poured gasoline on that thing and let it rip. In my personal experience, McDonald's has been the biggest offender. Their price increases have been in the triple-digit percentages for so many of their items in the last 10 years. I would absolutely love it if my brain could just stop at big CEO want more money. But that's the simplest and easiest way to look at it. It's true. Once you get to a certain amount of wealth, you're just not living on the same planet anymore. That being said, McDonald's certainly doesn't want you to see it that way. They've tried to pin the blame on the franchise owners, which, don't get me wrong, they're not completely innocent either. When I was living in Florida, there was one by my university that charged like 3 to 5% more for the same exact stuff just because it was at a college. Like but the bottom line is the McDonald's Corporation also sets the commission on sales percentage as well. So what are these franchise owners supposed to do? Just run a Mickey D's out of the goodness of their hearts? I don't think so. One of the things I've seen a huge increase of, however, is reward systems. I dare you to find a restaurant that doesn't have some kind of loyalty program. Outside of local business, it's actually really difficult to find one that doesn't have a reward system. The McDonald's app had its full rollout in 2017, and 4 years later introduced the My McDonald's Rewards feature. The program offers a limited menu with 24 items, with a points ratio of 100 points for every dollar you spend, with the high end of that menu topping out at 6,000 points or a $60 spend. This is actually one of the better yields in the rewards space at the moment, but that higher yield actually means you're paying more in hidden fees that I haven't seen anyone address.
Let me explain.
For example, we'll use the highest cost item on the rewards menu, the quarter pounder with cheese. Sub that in for a Big Mac or anything else. But the most expensive one is the quarter pounder with cheese. So in my market, that's $5.79, or in rewards terms, once again, 6,000 points. Let's go ahead and find the yield of what each point is worth in USD, at least in my market. We'll do this by dividing the cost of the item into 6,000 little pieces, which gives us 965 ten-thousandths of a cent per point. At that scale, it seems pretty innocuous. But let's take that math a little further. The cost of 1 point when making a purchase is 1 point for every cent. So, as we've said, it's 100 points for every dollar. So every dollar you spend at McDonald's, nearly a dime of that purchase is banked as a point. So let's say if you order a large quarter pounder with cheese meal for the grand total of $10.10, about 97 cents of that purchase is being banked as points. Now, my first thought that initially discouraged me from making this video at all is that doesn't account for the massive inflation that we've had in the past 5 years, especially at McDonald's. And it certainly doesn't explain why price increases are generally common in the fast food industry in general. I've spent the better part of 2 years sitting on this idea that reward systems have been negatively impacting our pricing, but since I first had that idea, my outlook has changed a lot. At first, I thought there's no way this is making an actual impact, but since then my outlook has completely shifted. Those little pieces of money do count for something, especially when your income is on the floor. like below poverty line. After shifting my mindset, this much of a yield on rewards multiplied on that absolutely massive operational scale that McDonald's has, they're making extra money hand over fist because of this. One of the principles I learned at a very, very early age was that there was no such thing as free lunch. Every time somebody gives something away for free, that ain't free. They're getting something. They are getting something. This is no exception. Let's look at this scenario from a different perspective. Not every person who goes to McDonald's is a rewards member, banking points from these purchases. From one point of view, you could say those people are what's funding the rewards program, the ones that aren't reaping any extra benefit from the rewards. And you may be right. From my perspective, it's no coincidence that McDonald's has been leading the charge on fast food prices after introducing the highest yield reward system currently active in the industry. I do think that normal customers do end up paying a portion of that bill for the rewards customers, but I also think that the reward system being so generous could also be used as a justification for increasing prices, especially since the introduction of the program seems to be just a short time before people began touting the term greedflation in 2021. Now, I'm obviously not some boardroom executive who gets to be privy to this sort of thing, so I don't know for sure what the drivers are for this kind of thing. I didn't go to college for it. I'm barely educated on business at all, but I do see it as an easy opportunity to regain some of that goodwill that they've been losing over the last few years. My suggestion? Axe the rewards program. Shave prices by 10%. I know that the kind of suggestion runs completely contrary to how these business people think, and it would never happen, not in a million years. It just boggles my mind how industry titans get away with doing the bare minimum at an inflated cost. In one of my financial struggles, I actually passed up a sandwich from McDonald's in favor of a burger from Chili's, a sit-down restaurant, which to this day is $11 before tax, which not only gets you a substantially higher quality item, but also the equivalent of a whole ass bag of Tostitos and a cup of salsa. All on top of the fries and drink you still would have gotten from McDonald's. Now, I'm not some corporate plant for Chili's, at least not yet. Do also want to bring up that the app craze and ordering ahead has also contributed to the recent upturn in pricing. Servers, they're not cheap. Even renting them from like Amazon or something, not exactly a small purchase. And somebody had to program their shitty web-based apps. Can I just mention real quick how absolutely fucking terrible these apps are? They paid someone to make those. And I can't help but wonder with how ass they are. Who got scammed? The programmer or the company? Because even on relatively modern phones, I can't go more than a second without some kind of stutter or hang-up. Just look at this loading time. I'll wait. And what's worse is that most of these silly things are web-based, so I know it's possible to run this sort of thing on low-spec hardware, it's just they're so poorly done. Anyway, that tangent aside, adding new technology always adds a cost to running the business, and it just overcomplicates the process. You went from being, well, in McDonald's case, a real estate company, but you go from a place that serves food into a digital service, and that costs money. It complicates the whole endeavor. You're no longer just making food. And in McDonald's case specifically, it's really unnecessary. The app has undergone a number of changes to the ordering system, and in none of those have they made it possible to order ahead and pick up at a certain time. It is literally just a point of sale in your pocket. So they've made this significant investment to add mobile ordering for no convenience. There is no benefit to ordering ahead at McDonald's. It is prepared when you get there. I'll admit, as an introvert, it's kind of nice not to have to list off every customization to an actual person that's going to forget that you didn't want ketchup or onions on your quarter pounder. But truthfully, I haven't noticed any reduction in erroneous orders, but your mileage may vary. I know this probably won't have a ton of reach, but given that I've never seen anyone mention something about rewards programs increasing the cost of food, somebody should say something, because not everybody's gonna make that connection, and clearly nobody has felt strongly enough about it to make a video or do anything. I'm no economist or anything of that sort, but recently I've been having a hard time, and truthfully I'm not sure what I'm really passionate about, so I'm just giving this whole thing a whirl while I've got the extra time.